The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is considered by many to be one of the greatest Nintendo 64 games ever to release. Sadly, however, other than the now dated 3DS remake, there is no reliable official way to play the game. Today, I'm going to give a full guide on how to play Majora's Mask on your PC or laptop using an overhauled HD texture pack as well as the Project Restoration mod, which adds many quality of life features to optimise the game for PC. Firstly, let's talk briefly about what both of these additions do. The texture pack we're going to be using is one by Henrico Magnifico, who is an absolutely amazing content creator who is immensely appreciated by all in the Zelda community and beyond, for his stunning reimaginings of old video games. His pack brings a slew of 4K graphical improvements to the game as well as an optional 60 FPS mode and custom reshed presets. I highly recommend you check out his Patreon page, he's done some incredible work. Secondly, we'll be using an add-on called Project Restoration, which aims to optimise the game for PC as well as make subtle gameplay tweaks. Some optimisations include quick buttons to swap between masks and use the ocarina, which saves wasting item slots, and there are also several tweaks to bosses and mechanics that will more closely match those in the original N64 version. These tweaks make the game more interesting and intuitive to play, while also adding a unique sense of challenge. There are plenty of other changes that I haven't mentioned here, so feel free to check out their official website for a full list of features. Anyway, without further ado, let's get straight into the installation process. So, the first thing you're going to want to do is come over to the first link in the description, which is going to be for the 4K texture pack. So this is actually going to include the copy of Citra Emulator, which is what we're going to be using, but note that it does not include the ROM. You're going to need to source that yourself. I'm sure you can figure out how to do it, but I'm not going to be doing that today for legal reasons. But anyway, this is the website here. I highly recommend you check out the rest of his stuff. As I said before, he's done some incredible work. And yeah, so what to do is just scroll straight down here. You can have a look at the screenshots and stuff if you like. I'm on Windows personally, so I don't have to worry too much about installation. But if you are on Linux or Mac, I'm sorry, but I can't quite help you there. So click on download the texture pack here and it's going to take you to the Patreon page. Don't worry, it's completely free. This is just where he tends to store all of his stuff. But I do recommend that you check it out as there's just tons and tons of stuff here. But anyway, so you're going to scroll down to the most recent post about Majora's Mask, whatever that is. For me, it's the 1.7.0 update. And you're going to click on this, and down here at the very bottom, you'll find the download link here. So this is going to take you to a Google Drive where you will see that there is a 1080p one and a 4K one. Now, download whatever one you think is going to be best. Just to save on time, I went for the 1080p version. As you can see, there is quite a considerable file size difference. But if you think your PC can handle it, then I would 100% recommend the 4K version as it looks amazing. But again, for the purpose of this video, I'm just going with the 1080p version. So whenever you're ready, just click download on that. And when that's done, we will carry on for the next step. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to want to do is head over to the second link, which is the Project Restoration link. And this is where we're going to download a mod which is basically just going to implement some additional features and quality of life changes that will help optimize the game for PC gameplay. So we're going with the HD HUD as well because this works better with the texture pack. So make sure it's this. The page should look like this either way. But this link up here will take you to the main page if you want to read more about all the features. I'll open that in a new tab quickly. This is the main page here. You can have a wee browse, but make sure that when you're actually downloading it to download the HD HUD here. So feel free to take a look at some of the screenshots. It's all looking very nice. But once you're done, you can come down here to the setup part where it says download Project Restoration. For me, it's version 1.5.9. And you can go ahead and download that and save that to your downloads. Once that's done, it'll be a 7-zip, so quickly unzip that onto your desktop and have that next to your texture pack. Secondly, you're going to come down to step 2 here and go to the layout archive, which is basically just the PNG ROMs folder for the actual textures. So once again, very similar, go ahead and download that, extract that onto your desktop as well. And finally, all you need to do is download the texture here, which is actually the HD HUD itself, and save this as a PNG just to your desktop again for now. And once that's done, that's all you need to install. So once you're ready, go and drag these 4 folders onto your desktop, or rather 3 folders in one image. So this is all you need for the installation. And one thing I will say is make sure, these don't really matter, but when you're actually playing the game, make sure that this folder is on your desktop. This must be on your desktop. It's just how the software works. If it's not, you might run into some visual issues. But once that's done, double click on this quickly. Now there's a lot of stuff here, so don't be too overwhelmed. But the first thing we're going to do is come into this top folder here. If you're using a European version or a Japanese version of your ROM, you're going to want to click the appropriate batch file, which will basically just optimize the ROM to run better for the region that it's in. Otherwise, if you're using a USA version, you don't need to worry at all, but just if you're using a European ROM or a Japanese ROM, make sure to run these files or which one you need to run. So for example, I'm using a European ROM, so I'm going to quickly run that. And we'll see once that's finished, it is now being transferred to the PAL version of the ROM. So that's fine. Now, once you're ready, simply come over here. This is the actual emulator that we're going to be running the game from down here at the bottom. So double click on this. And once it's open, it should look something like this. It may run an installer just because it'll be the first time that you've used it. So just if there's any processor steps there, just follow them. It's very quick and very easy. Otherwise, it'll look like this. And the first thing we're going to want to do is add a new game directory. So double click on this option here and navigate to wherever you keep your ROM. So for me, it's on my emulation drive under ROMs and 3DS. And we'll see that it has appeared here as a Europe Australia ROM. Now, a couple of things that we're going to do just in Citra, just to optimize a few things before we start, is come over to Emulation and Configure. Under General here, there's not really anything you need to worry about. Just make sure the emulation speed is set to 100%. Otherwise, come down to Graphics. The default resolution here under Renderer will be native 400 by 240. Obviously, you don't want that. That's the 3DS resolution. So I've set it up here to 4K. Just because that's my monitor resolution and I want the game to look as best as possible, but you can play around with this. You don't have to come out the game to change it. You can change this on the fly and the resolution will adapt. So just play around and see what works for you in terms of performance and visuals. Don't worry too much about anything here. By default, it might have the Anime 4K texture filter on. No need to turn that off. I've just done that because that's just my personal preference. But once again, you can play around with all these different things if you want as well. Other than that, make sure that the API setting is set to OpenGL. Software will just be the original 3DS sort of graphics, so make sure that's set to OpenGL. Vulkan's not enabled as far as I know. Under controls, this is where you're going to set up your actual controls. So for me, I've got a PS5 controller hooked up right now. It does auto map the buttons, but the game won't recognize that. So you're going to have to go and manually map them yourself, which doesn't take too long. Just make sure everything's mapped correctly, because if you don't do that, even though it looks like it's mapped it correctly, in the game you won't be able to move or do anything because the game doesn't recognize that. So just make sure that that's all up and running. One more thing in here before we actually launch the game. If you come over to the graphics tab and under layout, by default your screen will be set to default. This is going to be the top and bottom screen of the 3DS taking up equal amounts of the screen. I recommend setting this to a large screen. That's going to make it so that the top screen takes up the majority of your monitor, while the bottom screen only takes up a small amount in the bottom right. You can set it to whatever you want, but that's generally what I recommend. If you've got two monitors, feel free to set it to side-by-side or, sorry, not side-by-side, separate windows, and you can drag it over to your second monitor. But for consistency, I recommend that you keep it to large screen. As for that, we've actually set up everything we need to do in Citra. So now what we're going to do is actually install the project restoration. So come over here and right-click on your game here and go to Open Mods Location. Folder should be empty. And if you come down here to your desktop and open up the actual project restoration file, you're going to be met with 3 folders. Now these actually correspond to the version of your ROM. So the way to check what version your ROM is to actually launch the game from Citra first with no mods or anything. And on the title screen in the bottom right hand side of the screen, it will say the version of your ROM. So for me, mine is 1.1. Most of you will probably be 1.1. If not, just open the folder accordingly. So I'm going to open up version 1.10, which corresponds to 1.1. And in here, we're going to click the Citra folder. And the 2 files we're going to need to copy over here are xheader.bin and code.bps. So drag these folders into your mods folder like so. Ignore that, that's not important. Next, we're also going to open up the big screen layout, which you also downloaded, and this ROMs folder we're also going to drag into the mods folder. This is not this is not exclusive to a certain version, this is just universal. You don't need to worry about versions matching up whatsoever. And finally, the last thing that we need to do is open up the menu here again by right clicking on the ROM and open up custom texture location. And it's in here that we're actually going to place the JPEG file, PNG file, sorry, which is going to be the all of the actual, you know, HD textures and logos. So just click replace the file in the destination, because there will already be one, and that is your HD HUD all installed and ready to go. And finally, once everything's ready, we are now ready to launch the game. So once everything's done, you can simply double click on Majora's Mask 3D like so, and once it's ready, it will boot up. It might take a while just because it's loading so many textures. There we go. And once we're in, if you want to enter full screen mode, which obviously I recommend you do, you can either press F11 as a short key, or you can come up to view and click full screen here. And that is you now in the game. Everything is loaded correctly. Once you press A or X or whatever your controller has, and you open up the title screen, it should say Majora's Mask 4K. If it doesn't, you've probably forgotten to put the texture pack on the desktop, so just make sure that that has definitely happened. And that's us in, so I'm going to quickly press start and go over here to the file that I started earlier. And once it loads up and the Dawn of the First Day menu disappears, we will see that all of our 4K textures have loaded. The game looks amazing, and we also have our HD HUD. And Project Restoration has fully installed. As we can see, the top left, top right, and bottom left corners, we have our health, our magic, our shortcuts for the D-pad, and our button indicators at the top there as well. So yeah, perfect. Now you can freely switch between all of your masks as easily as this. Obviously it's playing the cutscene because it's the first time I've done it, just with the click of the D-pad. Obviously I've only got the Deku mask here, but once you have all the masks, they will be assigned to the D-pad at the top there. And I've also got the Ocarina here, which I can play whenever I want. So yeah, that's everything installed. You've now installed everything, and you can finally play Majora's Mask 3D at the best optimal way. This is probably the best and just most convenient way to play the game out there. Obviously Nintendo hasn't released any sort of HD re-release of this game, and unfortunately the version on Nintendo Switch Online isn't exactly optimal, so this is really your best bet, and just such a phenomenal job from both Henrico Magnifico and the Project Restoration team. They've done a really good job. But yeah, that's it for the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed playing the game, and if you did find this helpful, please feel free to subscribe. That would mean a lot, but other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.